Welcome back to the breakdown. Today is July 31st, the final day of July. It's a Wednesday. We got a lot of early games, and we're going to talk about every single game on the slate in this video. What's going on, everyone? My name's Austin from Calling Our Shot. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the breakdown videos. I certainly enjoy doing them, looking at every single game and seeing what we can find, and maybe give you guys some leans and picks that I like, that I'm looking at, and it's a lot of fun. So hopefully if you are new, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, drop a like. We're going to dive into the games in just one moment. Yesterday was a 2-in-1 day for our official picks. As you guys know, we do the breakdown, and we also post a best bets video where you can find all the picks that we actually end up locking in. Go check that one out. It'll actually be posted after this video today. But let's dive into the picks. We got a lot of early games. We're going to start with the Marlins and Rays. Honestly, this is a series. You got Rodri Munoz versus Taj Bradley. Yesterday, the Marlins put up some runs. Taj Bradley's been really, really good, though. I am not surprised to see the Rays super big favorites. I kind of lean under here. This is probably not a game I love touching because Rodri Munoz might be one of the worst pitchers I've ever seen, but Taj Bradley's just been super locked in. Now, Marlins made a ton of moves at the deadline. Maybe we talk about that later in life, but Marlins offense is going to be better, in my opinion, second, this and into August and in September. I think they'll be better than they were, pre-trade deadline, because they got a lot of young guys in there that will be trying hard, maybe stealing some bags and whatnot. I like the Marlins, long-term kind of outlook with a lot of their starting pitching, probably returning more next year. We're talking Sandy, Jesus Luzardo. Don't love the spot, though, for them against Taj Bradley. I don't know if I'm going to really touch anything in this game. I feel like the lines are properly priced. Not a surprise to see Rays big favorites. Their bullpen has been better lately, although they did trade away a bunch of arms in there. Again, I lean an under here, but do I want to take an under in an early game with Rodri Munoz on the mound? Not really, honestly. That guy kind of stinks. And before I go on to the next game, I do want to mention everything is timestamped down below. So if you don't care about some of these games, definitely feel free to skip forward. Go down to the description. You can see all those timestamps. Next game, we have Yankees versus Phillies, who played into, the 12th inning yesterday. Phillies trying to avoid a sweep here. They are minus 130 favorites at home with Christopher Sanchez on the mound facing Nestor Cortez. If you look at the Yankees versus lefties recently, you'd see that batting average is not great. Well, note their OPS is pretty solid, and their on-base percentage is pretty dang high against lefties. So Christopher Sanchez might be in for another tougher start. He might not give up a ton of hits, but wouldn't be surprised if he's walking some guys and it's pretty inefficient with some of these batters for the Yankees, because the Yankees obviously have a ton of firepower in there. This will be the first lefty they've seen in a hot minute. Obviously faced Wheeler and Nola, and then I'm pretty sure they faced a bunch of Red Sox righties, because I don't know if the Red Sox have a lefty in their rotation outside of the newly acquired James Paxton. I still think that we'll see Philly put up runs here. Nestor Cortez is on the road, has been a fade spot pretty much all season long, and his earned runs line is in at 3.5. Philly has been pretty good against lefties the last 2 weeks. I think, again, this is going to be a decently high-scoring game. The bullpens have not been good, and now they're even more fatigued. I do look at this game probably going over. It could be a string of 3 straight games going over. Yesterday, you needed who was that? Rojas stole home and on a wild pitch to kind of push it into extras. Again, I do lean another over here. I think the Yankees continue to put up runs. Christopher Sanchez has been good, but this is just the Yankees offense that you just don't really want to fade a ton right now. I do think there's runs in this game, but not sure I'll really touch anything. I'll look at some props, though. Next game, we have, again, the Blue Jays in the Orioles, another early start. Espino will make the start for the Blue Jays. I don't honestly know a ton about him. I know he kind of struggled in AAA. After him could be Yariel Rodriguez, who a lot of people are on his over and outs in his first start against the Blue Jays or against the Orioles, and he didn't make it out the first inning, so they probably will tag team those two guys in there. Gray Rod will start for the O's today, another high total at 9.5. Not a huge shock to see the O's as bigger favorites. O's have been pretty dang good, and the Blue Jays have not been very good. Gray Rod is, honestly, if there's a pitching prop I was looking maybe at for some plus money, Gray Rod under an ounce isn't a terrible look. I'm not sure I'll add it to the card because it's like plus 135. But he's sometimes super inefficient, and Toronto has the bats to make things annoying. Sure, they traded away, guys like IKF and Justin Turner and things like that, but they still got guys in there that are going to work counts. And Gray Rod is he's not afraid of walking guys. He's done that plenty of times. I wouldn't shock me if Gray Rod maybe has a more inefficient outing today. I don't actually mind backing the Blue Jays here, but if I'm going to back them, it's maybe just the bats. I'd rather just back. I don't want to trust that bullpen at all. That bullpen is terrible. They also traded away some guys who, honestly, I think Trevor Richards they traded away. He has been one of the worst pitchers in July. I still lean probably some more runs in this game. I don't think Espino's great. I think Gray Rod gives up his couple in there, 2 or 3 himself. And that Orioles bullpen, they bolstered it, but did they bolster it with great arms? My opinion, not really. Next game, this one I'm really looking hard at. Twins and Mets. I really like an over here. An over like at 8.5. Obviously, the Mets put up 6 million runs on Monday. Yesterday, when I backed them against David Festa, nothing. They couldn't get any of those hits to drop. They had a bunch of hard hit balls that just didn't find the gaps. So they'll face Pablo Lopez, a guy that you'd say, hey, he's due some regression, or some regression in terms of his ERA, should go lower, but he just can't seem to miss the bats. And the Mets are one of the best offenses against righties. This Twins offense typically has been hitting lefties really well, struggled against the 2 lefties the Mets have trotted out there. Now you have Severino, a guy that a lot of people like to back. I think the Twins put up runs here today. I think the Mets put up runs here today. I think the bullpens come in and give up some runs too. So I really like an over in this game. Might be an official pick I add to the card. Not sure. At 8.5. I wouldn't be shocked if I take it over in this game. I do like some runs from Pablo Lopez and Severino. Twins bullpen has been terrible. And then Mets bullpen, 7th in ERA last 2 weeks. I don't trust that at all. I think some runs are coming in this game. Those 2 teams are bound to start hitting better with runners in scoring position, especially the Twins. Next game, we got Braves and Brewers. I said in the video yesterday, the game was going to go under. And I hope some people trusted me because I told you it was going under. If you run back our plays that we lose, you get winning days. You talk about Mariners money line. We lost it on Monday. What happened if you ran it on Tuesday? Sweat free. Braves and Brewers, what happens if you ran back the under? We lost in agonizing fashion on Monday. Sweat free under. Yesterday, they had Bryce Elder on the mound, and he sucks. And they still went under. I told you that would happen. It's just how it works in baseball. Things that happen one day don't happen the next. Things that don't happen one day happen the next. It's just the variance in baseball. Today you get Chris Sale versus Freddie Peralta. It would be on brand if this one goes over. I'm probably not going to touch it because I respect Chris Sale, but it wouldn't shock me if maybe you see a lower scoring game through 5, and then you see some runs spawn in from the bullpen. Wouldn't shock me a ton, despite these bullpens being good. Again, probably not a pick I'm touching because I respect Chris Sale a ton. Milwaukee's been pretty good against lefties, though, although they haven't faced the best lefties in the world, but did get some things going on Justin Steele, who honestly hasn't really looked good recently. Chris Sale's probably the best lefty you'll see. There's not a lot of better lefties than him in the majors. There's a reason he's, favored for the Cy Young. It's really, him, Zach Wheeler, and Paul Skeens. Chris Sale's obviously trying to win that Cy Young award. I think he pitches well today. I think there's still some runs, though, in this game. Freddie Peralta, he gives up at least a home run per game. That's just his rule fastball, Freddie. The Braves might tag him for some runs here today. Some guys have good splits against him. Austin Riley, most notable. Again, probably not a game I really want to touch. Just have PTSD from Monday. But again, I think there's some runs in this game. Do they come early? Do they come late? Up to you. Wouldn't be shocked if some came early. Maybe Freddie Peralta in for a bad start against the Braves offense that loves hitting the fastball. Could happen, but again, probably not a game I'm touching. Now, next one, we have Royals and White Sox. This one is hard for me to predict. Brady Singer, I think he pitches pretty well. It's hard not to pitch well against the White Sox. This comes down to Drew Thorpe. Now, Drew Thorpe, you guys know I love him. I took this under. I don't think it was actually these 2 pitchers. I think it was Seth Lugo and Drew Thorpe against each other a couple Sundays ago. Sweat free. Now they're seeing Drew Thorpe for a second time. Now, I'm a fan of Drew Thorpe. At least I was until I took his under and earned runs last start against the Mariners, and he gave up 8 in the first inning. So obviously he's coming in here, giving up 8 in the first inning. Not really something that you want to do. So Drew Thorpe's obviously going to come in here try to be locked in early. However, we saw the only team that's really seen him twice was the Mariners, and what they do, they rocked him. So they clearly saw something on the film. Kansas City's going to look at the film, and if they saw something that the Mariners see, Drew Thorpe could be in for a bad outing. So I don't know if I'll fade him here. I might, honestly, because he's just relying on the soft contact, and the Royals have the ability to just rock a pitcher like that. They didn't rock him the first time around. Wouldn't shock me if they rock him this time. He doesn't seem like us. I mean, this is honestly, a big game for Drew Thorpe. Can you trust him against teams he's already seen? This will be the indicator here if the Mariners was a fluke, or if that's kind of the pitcher Drew Thorpe is, or if he's closer to 3 ERA. I lean towards closer to the 8 runs, but again, we'll see about this one. The Royals trying to pull up the Sox. I don't know if they've won a game since the beginning of the year. I mean, this team stinks. If you're backing anything, I don't mind Royals minus 1.5. Again, I would consider Royals minus 1.5. That White Sox bullpen's terrible. Thorpe's not going to give them a ton of length. I do like the runs in here in this game. I like Royals to put up some runs early and late in this game. I'm looking at maybe some overs, maybe for the Royals, maybe first 5, or maybe just backing the Royals full game. Although their bullpen is not great, definitely better than White Sox, let's be honest. Next one, we have we have Rangers versus Cardinals. I believe I might have misspelled his name. Michael McGreevy will be making his first career start. You got to earn that name spelling right, but McGreevy making his first start, all right, in AAA. I won't lie, there's not a lot you could take from AAA. Got a high total, though, at 9.5 with Haney on the mound. Rangers, you got to be able to hit a guy that's never pitched in the majors and had like a 4.5 ERA, and he gave up a lot of hits, I believe, in the minors too. I think he was averaging nearly a hit per inning. I think he pitched 109 innings, giving up like 110 hits. So that's not great. Rangers offense has been terrible though against righties. It's a pick 'em. I like the over in this game. I think you see a lot of runs. McGreevy, I think, gives up some runs. I think Heaney, he's liable for giving up runs too, and the Cardinals have been pretty good against lefties recently. Two teams that have been able to get the timely hits, which is good. The problem with the Rangers is they haven't been getting guys on base. That 197 batting average is putrid, but I think we see a lot of runs in this game. I mean, yesterday, what was the final score? 8-1, something like that. So Rangers couldn't do anything yesterday. They haven't really been able to do a lot recently. Facing a guy in his first career start, sometimes the jitters are there, and he could really struggle here. And then the Cardinals bullpen has been much better behind him. They did improve, got Eric Betty, but that didn't really help out a ton. Like runs in this game, a 9.5 total in Busch Stadium. That's just not something you see a ton. I think we see runs here early. McGreevy might give up a couple. Haney might give up a couple. Maybe we're looking at like a 3-3 coming out of the fifth. And then you just need some runs in the bullpens. And I think certainly that will happen. Next game, we have the Nationals versus the Diamondbacks. Over under at 8.5. Yesterday, I told you I liked Patrick Corbin under and outs. I guarantee you what happened to Patrick Corbin yesterday, not happening if I take the under and outs. Just that's how my season has gone. Patrick Corbin got the triple-double. Gave, 13 hits, 10 or 11 earned runs. He sucked. Now they see another lefty in Mackenzie Gore. I anticipate him pitch. I mean, honestly, Gore can't pitch worse. I like fading the D-backs coming off a big, high-scoring game. I actually kind of like an under maybe in this spot. Obviously, both teams getting the timely hits right now, but that's bound to dry up. Hitting over 300 with runners in scoring position, that'll go down. I have to look at how Gore's pitched recently. I'm confident in Zach Gallen pitching decently against a Nationals team that I'm honestly not too afraid of. I might honestly add Zach Gallen over and outs to maybe a parlay. I think it's 17.5. He's normally good for 6 innings. Still, it's Gore and that Nats bullpen is what this comes down to. Arizona coming off a super high-scoring game. Sure, the bats are going to cool off a little bit, but do you want to fade an offense to just put up whatever, 17 runs or something crazy? Probably not, but I think this is a closer game. This could come down to the bullpens most likely. I think Gore pitches well today. Whip's a little high, though, for me. I still think he can get some outs against the D-backs, who did just lose Lourdes Gurriel. We'll see if he plays today. Did leave the game early yesterday. Maybe it was just giving him some rest because they were up by 300 runs. I still think this is a lower scoring game. Not sure the 8.5 total is one I want to die on a hill on because the D-backs could, have another big outing, especially against Mackenzie Gore. But I think Gore's solid. I think Gallen's solid. I think we see some solid pitching outings from both these two pitchers. So I'm leaning it under here. Not sure I'll take it, but again, I like lesser runs than yesterday. I mean, they can't score more than yesterday, right? Next game, we have Mariners versus the Red Sox. Now, both two games in this series have been super high scoring. Split them, so this is the rubber match. You have George Kirby versus Brian Bayo. Now, two righties on the mound. Both the offenses are heating up. We've talked about Boston red hot against righties. They're going to see George Kirby, who throws strikes. He doesn't walk guys. He will throw a ton of strikes. I'm going to be looking at maybe Jarren Duran's over in bases. I got to look at what the odds are on that. Brian Bayo's been better recently, but still not good. And Mariners been really good against righties recently. I mean, their bats are hot. Not a surprise to see this game kind of be a pick-em at plus 100 for the Red Sox. Not a huge shock there. George Kirby is better than Brian Bayo, at least this season. The stats show that. So I'm not shocked to see them favored, especially with their bullpen a little bit better. I think this game is a tight one. I wouldn't be shocked if in our parlay we have each team to score 1+ runs in the first 5, because I think Bayo gives up 1 and George Kirby, he'll give up 1. He'll give up some doubles here and there. And I think the Red Sox will be able to know that strikes are coming. They'll be able to put those in play and get at least 1 run through the first 5. So probably that will be in the parlay. Not sure I'll touch anything else in here. Maybe some Jarren Duran bases because he went 0 for 4 yesterday and he's just been too good recently. I'll have to look at that though a little bit more. But Duran's been really good. Obviously, we'll bat lead off tonight, especially against a righty in George Kirby. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the best bets video. We'll probably have something in this, whether it's the parlay, 1+ runs from both teams in the first 5, or it's maybe some Duran bases or something else. I would take a peek at all those props and see what sticks out to me. The next one, we have a Cubs versus Reds game. Both teams have won one game in this series, I believe. Cubs won in convincing fashion 2 days ago. Yesterday I talked about how Justin Steele's really struggled against the Cincinnati Reds. and he struggled just like that. Today we got Kyle Hendricks versus, I need to update this Reds pitcher. I'll update it, but it's Nick Lodolo that'll go for them. I'll have to update that. I have to update it, but whatever. Nick Lodolo hasn't been great recently. I won't lie to you. He has not been good. Still, I think he pitches decently here today, but the Cubs have been pretty good against lefties. They haven't faced a ton of them. Not a lot of PAs in there against lefties. Reds haven't seen haven't hit righties recently well, but if you look at it in July, they've been pretty good, and Kyle Hendricks is literally just terrible. Hendricks has been better recently until that 6 earned runs in that 5th inning to the Royals. This is a tough game. These are two divisional teams that going back and forth. Maybe this is a tighter game. Lodolo gives up a couple. Kyle gives up a couple. You see maybe like a 2-2, 3-3 coming out of the 5th. I think that's probably what you see here. I think this is a tight game. I don't really know where I'd lean in terms of, I don't know if I want to lay minus 155 on Reds ML at home. Lodolo eventually will start pitching well, but is this the right outing for him to pitch well on? I don't know. Again, this is just a series I haven't had a great read on, and I'd rather not force something when you don't have a great read. So probably just going to avoid that series if I'm being honest. Next one, we have Pirates versus Astros. Now, Astros huge favorites, trying to avoid a sweep. They got Framber on the mound. Not a huge surprise here. Woodford will start for the Pirates, a 10.8 ERA. Now, you look at that just on paper, you're like, ooh, how 10.8, wow. He obviously hasn't started a ton this year, and is coming off a stint in the minors where he pitched really, really well. I mean, there's a reason he's making a spot start here. He pitched really well in the minors. Now, can you take a lot from the minors into the majors? Maybe not. I mean, Houston, yesterday, pretty much no one got hits on Houston besides Yainer Diaz. He had 4 hits. I think they had 8 or 9 as a team. That's not great, but they'll get more hits today against Woodford. Pirates have been good against lefties, but I put that with a grain of salt because they've only faced Christopher Sanchez, who they had 8 hits but only 2 runs against. And then they faced Matthew Liberatore, who they got to, but Liberatore's pretty trash. Framber's obviously very solid. I think he pitches well, though, here today. I think we see the Astros lead. I think he comes out of their bullpen. I think I'd pick the Astros if I had to because I like the fade a guy with a 10.8 ERA. Astros bats just haven't been too great, but I think they get going here today against Woodford. Woodford's not really been great. I think we see some runs from the Astros today, and I think the Pirates, those second, in batting average, OPS, WRC plus, those are coming down today against Framber. Framber, one of the better pitchers the Astros have to offer. I think he pitches well here today, even has a chance to record a win here. I think we see the Astros avoid the sweep here. Do they cover the run line is the question. I say they do. I think they do. Not sure I'll add it to the card, but I do think the Astros cover the minus 1.5. They just have to today. Framber on the mound. They'll get the job done. Next one, we have Dodgers and Padres. Once again, a high-scoring game yesterday with Glasnow and Matt Waldron on the mound. Today you got Kershaw and Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease has been arguably the best pitcher in July. He's facing, obviously, a Dodgers lineup that has a lot of talent in there. Some guys that do struggle. He's just been so good. I don't know how you feed Dylan Cease. They are favored. Kershaw was all right in his first start. 2 whip, not great. He was facing a Giants offense that's really good, though, against lefties. Padres have been pretty good against lefties. Obviously, I lean the Padres here. I don't know how you fade Dylan Cease coming off his no-hitter. He's just been too locked in recently. I think this is a lower scoring game, though. I don't think the Padres give him a ton of run support. I think this is a lower scoring game, maybe a first 5 under. Then those bullpens come in. That Dodgers bullpen has been disgusting. Probably not an under I want to take just because that Dodgers bullpen. If you told me the Dodgers bullpen was, 15th, maybe. That bullpen is terrible. So I'm probably not taking anything here, especially because Kershaw doesn't give them a ton of length. So you're going to see even more of the bullpen. Again, I lean an under in this spot. I think all the runs got out of the system yesterday. Really like Cease. He'll get the job done. Comes down to Kershaw, and I think he pitches decently today. If I'm taking an under, it's probably just first 5. Again, probably not touching this game, though. Just not a game that I have a total great read on, but I don't think there's a lot of runs scored there. Next game, we have Rockies and Angels. This is a total that really surprised me, 8.5. Yesterday, tons of runs. What was it, 7-10? Angels won that game. So you got Kyle Freeland and Davis Daniel returning back to the majors. He had a couple starts, I believe, early July or in June. Didn't look great. They sent him back down to the minors. He's pitched well there. Kyle Freeland, I just don't know. The total being at 8.5 is either the freest over on the board or you're just going to be sitting there and it's going to be poverty offense. And sure, the Rockies are capable of that. Angels are capable of that. Angels have been decent against lefties recently. Bullpens have been all right. I think their bullpen ERAs are a little bit too low for where I believe they should be at the end of the year. I honestly, the lines are so off in this game. Something is just going. It's like monkey symbols in my brain. I just don't know how to predict this team. This is just two pitchers that you don't have a ton of. I mean, Kyle Freeland's pitched a lot more this year than Davis Daniel. Is Daniel going to be better? I mean, his ERA is pretty high, but whip pretty low. Kyle Freeland hasn't been great. He just sucked in his last start, again against the Giants, a team that's really good against lefties. I'm honestly probably not touching anything in this game. If the total was 9.5, I'd probably lean to over. The fact that it's 8.5 here, something's off here. Maybe it's an easy over, but I don't know. Those are two teams that I don't want to die, and I don't honestly want to watch them a ton. And then the final game on the slate, A's versus Giants. I like an over in this spot. The A's have been very good against righties, very good against lefties. They rocked Robbie Ray yesterday. San Fran's not been great against righties, but you don't have to be great to get runs up on Ross Stripling. That guy is literally terrible. He's batting practice. He is absolutely abysmal. And while the Giants aren't as great against righties, I don't think it matters. I don't honestly think it matters. I think he gives up runs. Logan Webb is always due for a couple runs here and there, and Oakland's just been really, really hot with the bats. I think you see a couple runs, 3 apiece from each side. I think the Giants could realistically put up 5 here, and that wouldn't shock me. Ross Stripling is that bad. He's really, really bad. So I think we see runs here from both sides. I like an over 7.5. I think that's probably a solid spot to look at. Not sure at it, but again, that's probably a game I like the over in. Logan Webb's outs once again at 19.5, which is pretty high. It's not even plus money. He probably goes far in this game, but he's going to give up his hits. That's what he does. He just gives up hits. Will the A's get the timely hits? I've been getting them recently the last 2 weeks. 5th in batting average with runners in scoring position last 2 weeks. Can they get them today? I certainly think so. And then finally, we wrap up with hot and cold hitters and guys in good and bad matchups. Yesterday, the guys that were pretty hot, they stayed hot. We have Vladdy back here. He continued his hit streak. Bogarts, Devers, Judge, Ketel Marte, all guys that are scorched hot. You guys know their names. They're pretty dang good. Guys that are ice cold, Bryce Harper. What are we doing? Jonathan India, still not great, but now that he didn't get traded, maybe he's better. Adley Rutschman, pretty bad. Ryan McMahon, pretty bad too. Those are guys that are pretty cold. Bryce Harper doesn't look great at the plate ever since returning back from injury. Facing Nestor Cortez, lefty. Don't know if I want to back Bryce just yet. Once Bryce gets going, you can just hammer his 2+ bases, but until then, I don't know how you put him in any parlays. He's just been absolutely terrible. And then finally, we wrap up the video with some good and bad matchups. Now, yesterday, the good matchups did pretty good. I mean, a couple of them were against Garrett Cole, who did not play, but a couple of them then did pretty good. You got Jeff McNeil against Pablo Lopez. He's been really good in his career against him. A couple, Donovan Solano, he should be in the lineup against the lefty Kershaw. Kike Hernandez, pretty good splits against Dylan Cease. Austin Riley, pretty good against Peralta. And Rafael Devers, pretty good against Kirby. Just some guys in pretty good matchups today. If you want to put them in a hit parlay, I like them. Austin Riley and Devers, I think those guys get hits. Kike, I don't know if I want to fade Dylan Cease and ask him to get a hit, especially at the bottom of the lineup. But hey, he's seen Cease pretty well, so do what you want with, you know what I mean. Finally, bad matchups. Some guys in there. A couple Dodgers, Ahmed Rosario and Jason Hayward, not great against Heaney, or not good against Cease. You got a couple Cardinals in there. Tommy Pham and Nolan Arenado, not great against Heaney. Maybe it just means they're due. Heaney's not a guy that I feel like a lot of people struggle against. Ketel Marte, a guy that we just talked about, was red hot. Not great against Score, 0 for 6. And Luis Arraez, not great against Kershaw, 0 for 6 as well. But again, those are just good and bad matchups. Maybe those guys are due. Maybe they just continue to struggle. We'll see how those guys do. Technically, Jazz Chisholm was the guy that was struggling against Nola, and he obviously did pretty well yesterday. Although I don't know if it wears home runs if they came off Nola or against the bullpen, but either way, Josh Chisholm is cracked right now. But those are my favorite, leans and things. That's the breakdown. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Breakdowns are always a little bit weird. We're just navigating the slate, talking about some pitcher props and things like that, some totals and whatnot. Obviously, if you want all our best bets, I'll link them on the screen. The best bets video, which will be live after this one drops. So go show it some love. I appreciate you guys as always. It's Austin. I'll see you guys in the best bets video with Logan, and hopefully we can turn in another winning day. 2-1 yesterday. Let's do it again today. See you guys there. Peace.